Alright, so now we're recording. I should be in the picture, right?
Yep.
Orange, red, and yellow.
Yep.
Everything around me is blue and black. That's obviously because everything behind me is colder than me. My skin's going to be the warmest thing.
Yep.
We're looking for the blue and black to start moving on its own.
Okay.
So, in the event something blue comes across my face or something that would be orange, then we know that we obviously have something going on there. I have different thermometers to debunk it. We're not going to pull all those out because I'm going to try to keep you guys as minimal as possible. They'll be just kind of debunking tools or being able to verify. Okay. So it's already recording, and it will record audio as well. So you're going to have 2 points of audio, even though the 4 of us are going to stay together this entire time. I'm not going to deviate away from you. Normally when I have a group of 10, I kind of separate off when we're in the bigger locations.
Okay.
So, but this guy, that's going to be you. Horizontal all night long.
So they can like.
Yep.
Okay.
And also, like, the camera is down on your bottom left,
Okay.
so watch where your fingers go. And then the red square means that it's recording. If you accidentally hit it and it turns to a circle, just let me know, and then we'll just have to splice some video together. Not that huge of a deal. So, I'm going to try to keep this as low as possible. So the other thing that records for us, we're going to use several spirit boxes tonight, and this one you would control the volume, which is super nice. But I'm going to use a few on my phone that I'll show you guys afterwards. But what's nice about this one is it's going to record the entire thing for you, even when it's on mute. So even if she never turns it up to not disturb Reese, we're good. You'll still have the full recording in the morning. So we may just turn it on, set it in the stroller, kind of see what happens throughout the night. So what is a spirit box? Are you guys familiar with that at all?
No.
Okay. So the spirit box actually sweeps through FM radio stations at a very quick rate. It's that very annoying static you guys get on your TV shows, and then they give you a phrase of what they think they heard kind of thing. I have this one set to a little bit slower. Okay, so it actually, the radio chatter will come through. So what does that mean? Half of those things that we actually can make out could possibly be a message. So let's say we're talking about Big John's Tavern over here, and the name John comes up. Obviously that's a reference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to be a 1 to 2 word phrase. Sometimes it's a little longer depending on how fast these DJs talk or a songwriter talks or whatever. So you're going to have that full recording, and I will go through it for a little while. I'm not going to go through obviously the full 90 minutes of it, but I'll give you markers of how I listen to the spirit box. So it's already set to record. There's only one little volume button on here, but again, with her just falling asleep, I'm not going to turn it up. So if you want to just kind of set that in the stroller wherever you want to. They didn't have all those cute fuzzy onesies when my kids were small, so last but not least, I'm going to use a few things on my phone. One of those things, I'll mask up because I'm going to have to post it guys for a minute, just to show you how it works. So the spirit boxes that I use are actually meant to be a game or a hoax. 80% of the one I'm about to show you doesn't mean anything. It's going to give us words randomly in the center of the screen and then save them to a list. Now this is my list from earlier. I already emailed myself the full list from Fort Sumter, so I can go through that later. So I'm going to clear it out and then start you guys off fresh. You guys will get the full list. Now, why is that? Because sometimes you're going to text me or email me a week from now or whenever after you get your data and say, you know what, my cat's name is Radar. And it says Cat Radar. I don't know those things about you. So again, it might be something personal to you that's actually popping up. So again, 80% of this, it's BS. It doesn't mean a damn thing. But we're going to keep it open all night long anyway. The other one I'm going to use, if I can keep it quiet enough, is a reverse spirit box. So the reverse spirit box actually works. If they say that it was an FM radio station, same thing, being flipped backwards, it's not. It's literally a man and a woman saying random words, and they flip the audio backwards. I have enough software to analyze EVPs, so I was able to actually play it forwards, and that's how I figured it out. However, it's a little creepy. So this is what I use to communicate. So when something comes through in forward motion, we can obviously hear it. So I keep that turned down until I actually want to use it as a communication piece. I do like to at least give you guys the gist of what something like that would sound like coming through. I did catch an EVP a few weeks ago. Came through really strong. Don't make it too loud.
breakfast?
Baked beans breakfast. So here's what happened. The spirit box that's over there said, "I'll fix you, baked beans breakfast," and then the word tea showed up on our word list, all within 2.5 minutes of each other. That's a breakfast over in the UK. I was talking about a woman from England. So if that kind of gives you a gist of why I look at all this stuff collectively as in the morning. And I always give you guys all that stuff back of what I found. So if something collective comes together like that, it's amazing stuff. We obviously take it as paranormal evidence, something we can't literally explain other than direct communication. So I run these two in the background, and then the word list stays up with us all night long. We start here for a reason. The reason why you just start at that building is it was called Big John's Tavern. Big John, he was a football player for the 1947 Giants. I'm not a big sports guy. I had to memorize a lot of this stuff. So Big John used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would tell the bartender if the cadets that came over from the Citadel, if they were of age or not, to drink. One night, two guys come in, they're not of age. John tells the bartender to cut them off. They get angry, they leave. They come back the next night, they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. Well, Big John sees everything, they get in a big wrestling match, shots were fired, John gets shot in the neck, bullet ricochets and lands in the wall. Like I said, the people that sit in the front of the bar can sometimes feel a little dizzy, queasy, lightheaded, those kind of things. Just not feeling well. It's from the paranormal activity out of the bullet. It's not from any particular ghost. It's from paranormal activity. I bring this up on purpose because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect you guys. So, it can happen. Psychics usually don't do well on my tours. We'll just say that. You guys are starting to not feel well, I kind of need to know. It's a big deal. First time somebody passed out on me, I was in CPR class the next day. And it wasn't the last time it happened. So again, I take you guys to truly haunted locations, whether you believe it in it or not. I do. So I see it literally every single night. I'm out here 6 nights a week. So I got the name Pierce, or the word Pierce. So depending on how you want to look at that. So, and I just got the word bullet. Again, I can't make this stuff up, guys. It is what it is. So again,
where are those words coming from?
These words are literally pulled out of random air. So the 80% of it is, if this was sitting in a non-haunted location in my living room, it would still give me a word every 3 to 5 minutes. Okay? The stuff that actually does come through that I can relate to, like a bullet that I just told you about, the bullet hole, that's obviously something that's going on. I don't call it coincidence when I catch it every single one. It's too odd for it to be coincidence. I have yet to have a tour that didn't have activity. So again, I can't guarantee that it will happen, but I can say that I've never had a tour in the past 1.5 years that didn't have something come up, and that is something right there. So I don't know what the name Pierce is. It could be one of Big John's teammates.
Yeah.
Could have been. It did just scrape him up. Like Big John got up and went back to the bar and said, "Get him a doctor and get me another beer." That was the exact story that came up. So that's kind of how that one went down. It's very cool that actually came up. So the mantle over there, we had a big earthquake in 1886. It's a big one for us because we don't get earthquakes.
What was year was it?
1886. So a piece of that mantling also wraps around the front of the building. A piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the head and killed him. Now, the previous owner of this bar, it was called Cane Rum Bar, said that he used to see shadow figures out there on East Bay Street after close. Now, I don't have any verifiable evidence of that other than his word, but I do know that this is where allegedly the first killing happened from that earthquake. So, very crazy stuff.
You know, when I'm walking around, you want me holding it like this at all times, or?
Most of the time.
Okay.
So the only thing I'll ask is try not to like put it in your pocket.
Yeah, of course. I was just gonna hold it down here at my side. And...
Yeah, it's your video. So I mean, I am gonna review it, but it's gonna be in our hotspot.
Gotcha. Okay. So make sure when I'm just walking between, so I can rest it.
Yeah, you're fine. I mean, a lot of times what will happen is because I pair people up, so the other thermometers that I have, those go to another person. So they would go to her,
right.
And then that way you guys can switch off.
Yeah.
I would call you guys the temperature team. But with just 3 of us, we're gonna make the most of it.
You born, raised, grew up all around Charleston?
Nope. I'm from Ohio.
Okay.
Just a writer that knows how to do research.
Yeah.
Alright, so kind of give you the skinny what's going on in here. This is what I call the red barn lot. I know, not the prettiest place in the world, but this is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. They are inside. You can see the lights on over there. Normally I have lasers out in the whole 9 yards on a full group of 10. We obviously can't do lasers in those windows to spook the horses.
Yep.
But this is also where they kept the horses that delivered milk to Charleston.
I can smell it.
Yeah, well, I'm used to it. You probably add a little bit more pungent on the nose towards it. I don't have any other usual history here other than this is the place where they delivered milk from. So we do get a lot of, this is a great place for me to get everybody to kind of practice with the devices that they actually have. So for your particular device with the camera, you have a ton of different types of materials. So you learn a lot about thermodynamics based on the metals, the asphalt, the wood, the brick, the foliage, you know, all of those kind of things. With the spirit box, which obviously we're not turning up, I usually teach people how to ask questions if they're going to be asking questions directly to it, because this is not the Ghost Adventures TV show where we're going to start provoking and making people angry. That's not what we do here. So with that being said, the church bells have gone off 3 times since I got down here. And I got down here at 6:45. That's just crazy. So with that camera, I've actually caught quite a few different things. I could see thermodynamics in reverse, which basically means we can see temperature rise at a very quick rate. We also, you know, we always think of ghosts in a cold spot.
I don't know. If there's a ghost on me, I don't want to know.
Well, I usually tell them, to whoever has that camera, to keep a person in view.
Oh, really?
So, for example, like if you were to point it directly at this wall, you should have mostly one color, right?
Yeah.
So watch what happens. Hold it there when you put me in view. You're going to get a big array of color because my shirts, you know, my skin, my hair, all of it is different temperatures based on what is on the wall. So that way you can actually see those cold spots move a lot easier. Now, with just 3 of us, might be hard to keep a person in view at all times. But actually, I'll show you the video real quick of what I caught a few weeks ago, and it's an easy point out of what to actually look for. The word cry. What else did we get? Loving and cry. So this is actually in the next location we're going to, and what you're looking at, all this orange is a wall. Do you see the 2 living people walking past the wall? Did you see them? Okay. So there's going to be 2 heads above this wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Now those people are living. Don't get excited yet. And you're going to see 2 black heads go the opposite way when there's a person in view. 1, 2. So see why I always say keep a person in view? I've had firemen and mechanics look at this thing who use that tool on a regular basis and can't make it out. Like they can't figure out why that actually happened. So, I'll get wrapped up.
Yeah, take a look at this video.
Color as this person.
Yeah,
yep, that's what we're looking at. Again, it's a very interesting job, to say the least.
What got you interested in this?
So as a kid, I was raised as in an Orthodox home, which is very strict religion. Nobody ever believed me from the things that I was seeing, and of course it was a sin, the whole 9 yards, and blah, blah, blah. As I got older, I found out that my grandmother, on the religious side of the family, could read playing cards, like tarot cards.
Okay.
Like those in old gypsy style. So it was kind of a family secret that nobody was really supposed to know, and it just kept going. So, many years ago. But yeah, this is usually a great practice area for us to get used to the device with the lasers.
And does the numbers on here?
Those are the radio stations.
Oh, those are the radio stations.
That's it. I'm just showing you that it's tweaking to the radio stations. It is recording right now, so all I'll do in the morning is upload it to see if we capture based on the timestamps of what I'm getting on the audio and this video. Kind of take a Going like that, it's usually in sync with an EMF meter. So this measures electromagnetic fields. Okay. Anything electronic will make it go into a pulse. Anything erratic like this usually needs something a little bit further. So if I were to put this up to my phone or a parking meter, it would literally just pulse. That's all it would do. This erraticism, there's nothing here to make this thing go off. But when that thing's going crazy like that, I usually will get the same pulses out of it. Yeah. All this to red, like that's a little nuts to me. Like, that's pretty high tonight. It wasn't this high last night, if that tells you. So again, I'm trying to keep this. I usually have it out with just a pretty keep an eye on it. I will go off the parking meters when we walk by.
Put it in the chat.
Well, it gets pretty bright now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what is this place? Again, we're not going to go to all the pretty places. This is what we call the Eliza and Charles Pinckney Mansion site. So Eliza and Charles, they actually had a son named Charles and they had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew were signers of our Constitution. It's a pretty big deal for obviously Charleston. Yeah. But I don't like politics at all. And I don't like talking about like, oh, the Declaration of Independence, this and that. So Eliza married Charles to stay here in the United States. Her dad was from, she was from England. This is where that baked beans breakfast came from. This is also the same corner of that video, actually up in that corner right there. So I do get a lot of activity here. So anyway, she married young to stay here. Her dad wanted her home, and she didn't want to go. So she decided she's going to get married and stay in the United States, which is exactly what she did. Dad got better, and he started sending gifts over from England. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. You guys have been driving around town, you've probably seen that word a few times. Mm-hmm. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. We still use it today.
Yep.
So, again, it's just a huge deal for us with the indigo crops because she's the first person who made it profitable. And we had a big, deep history and culture of it because it's part of the Gullah culture here, which is the slaves that came over from Africa. They already knew how to culture this plant, and she had slaves that knew how to make it profitable for her. So she used Dad's contacts to sell it overseas. So that was a pretty big deal. Not only did our rice plantations go downhill, but we needed another cash crop to save Charleston and the colonies at that time. We're talking 1700s. So with that being said, she saved pretty much the colonies. It was a pretty big deal for us. This is usually a pretty long session. Like they usually spend 10 to 15, maybe sometimes 20 minutes, depending on the activity in here. We're basically just going to do kind of a quick lap because, I mean, we're obviously not doing spirit box sessions right now. We'll see what comes up out of my spirit box, but we're going to do a lap at least with your device. We already see that the EMF is going crazy. There's weird things, and I'll tell you guys more about Eliza. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza Charles, so she goes by her maiden name. I usually ask my spirit box teams to try to find out what that maiden name is. They had 4 kids, only one was a daughter, so I usually ask them to find out what the daughter's name was. I tell them to stay away from yes or no questions, because yes or no are too easy to determine and mistake for something else. I usually ask them to try to find out what happened to the house, and it actually it caught fire right in this corner on the 2nd story floor. So that's something else that usually is figured out pretty easily because of where fire or burn will come through. You usually can ask anything about her death, which is how she died, how old she was, which president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So all of those answers they're pretty definitive. So when I get one of those answers, she died at the age of 70 from breast cancer in Philadelphia, and George Washington was a pallbearer at her funeral. That tells you how important she was. Right. So again, when somebody comes up to me and says Washington, that she died at the age of 70, these are prominent things that I have several spirit boxes usually running when we're I full group of 10. Got the word tea again. This is the big breakfast and tea.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see what else comes out of here, and especially with that light and the EMF matching up the way they are right now. Like that's pretty good stuff. And that light isn't always blinking. Sometimes it's just on. So, and that's kind of my barometer of how much activity am I going to get out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I do have like lasers that help us see things that we can't see with the naked eye. You can only see the lasers when something passes through it. There's another person with a digital camera taking pictures through the lasers to catch things that another person can't catch. You know what I mean? Like in case they miss something. Again, this is set up for groups of 10. So
No worries.
no,
Yeah,
I'm just. Well, the reason why I tell you that is because all your other tours, they're set up for 20. So your storytellers, they're literally going to have a group of 20. Like last night, they had more. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. It's not fair to you guys to not have a personalized tour when you need to interact with me.
Yeah.
You can't have 20 people running around asking me questions. 10 is hard enough, you know, because it's people, they've never either done it before. If my daughter's with me, my youngest, like she's here to answer questions too.
She likes to read into it.
Well, half of this stuff used to be hers.
Wow.
It was a birthday gift. So when I quit my 6-figure job and said, Dad's got a new idea, I need your stuff back, she was game. You know, she was all in. But that's just kind of how things went for us, you know. I just got tired of being in retail.
Yeah.
Wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And I had a supportive wife who actually does a lot of work for me on this.
That's great.
So, yeah, let's get a quick lap with the camera. That's an alley that's, if I ever have a store, like that whole building right there is empty, and there's store openings on the other side, and they're just boarded up. So the store for me would be Paranormal Books on one side, Thursday on the other, and then a haunted hotel above it.
Oh, cool.
So that would be a great place for me to do that. Maybe we're actually going to try and cut through there. I don't want to pull you through the grass. We can actually go out and around if that thing can't make it through the grass.
We're good.
Should be fun.
Just because I want to.
Yeah.
The sun came down really up now.
Yeah.
We were pushing this on the beach earlier.
Oh wow. Which beach did you guys go to?
We went to college yesterday. It was nice in the morning.
So Isle of Palms is probably our cleanest and prettiest beach. And looking for a little bit of, I'm sure Bali was pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Too bad.
It rained, and then it opened up for like 2.5 hours, and then it rained again. So I think people were like not really going because they thought it was gonna, not be worth it. But for us, I probably need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. We're only here a couple more days, so tomorrow's gonna be seeing like the downtown, and then Tuesday a little bit we have a private boat tour to just take us through the salt marsh, I think it is, and Morris Lighthouse and things like that. So trying to do things that are not as
It's an open air market. So continues to sell sweets. And it goes all the way Middle Street to East Bay Street.
Is it only open during the night?
It is.
Oh.
We used to have a night market. With COVID, they kind of restricted it a little bit. And they did move. You notice all the tables are outside the windows.
Right.
So you can only come out from the outside. You can't walk through the center anymore.
Oh. That's okay. Though we can come in and see this maybe.
Yeah. So, that's good. Yeah, it's a lot of like artisan style stuff.
Have you done cities that you find it? What cities do you find it? Paranormal, I guess.
There's stories everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's, like, I don't know if I can count one higher than the other. But I do, like, lately, I just got back from the Flight 93 Memorial in Shanksville, which hasn't been deemed haunted
Really?
until I took a look at it.
Okay.
I went to Gettysburg that same week. I've been to Savannah.
Ever anything in Chicago?
No.
I've
never been to Chicago.
Work in the theater there called the Oriental Theater. And we used fire there. Where whatever doors they had, exit doors, they opened the other way. I think it's part of the reason that they changed the way doors were opened in the theaters for fires, and so or something like that. So there was a big fire there, and everybody got trapped, and they were like jumping from, I think, the balcony out into the alley.
Charleston.
Yeah, you figured there'd be some
What?
maybe paranormal type stuff, especially with the history of the Chicago fire. I mean, I'm sure there were.
Yeah, I was saying they said they
some
always said
obviously
that
some-
alley back behind the theater was haunted. I used to have to work it. Set up by myself up in the balcony. It was just so creepy. I just felt really creepy.
We're actually going to go up that way, but let's see where this car's going. Our driver's not going to watch the restaurant.
So I can see this.
We were parked right by where you met us. Yep, we were
Yeah, right across the street.
Okay, give me a how do you ride?
I did a full-hour episode. My episodes are normally 30 minutes. And of course, I watched it on 9/11.
Oh,
So,
maybe that had something to do with it.
well, I went in August. There was so much there, and a lot of reading that I had to do, just on that flight by itself.
It's a cool cobblestone alley.
Make sure you guys can fit through.
She did something. She got
So, the brick building up here, right down the corner, that used to be called Bachi's Restaurant. Bachi's Restaurant left town because it's too haunted.
Really?
Yeah, the doors don't stay locked. Things move around in there all the time. And there was a mirror that fell off the wall one night and never broke. Like
What?
a big, heavy mirror fell off the wall, never shattered. So, again, if I were to have a store, when we do get our store, I'm hoping to have this building because it's so close to the market.
Yeah.
It's obviously haunted, and I will get $500 a night for people that rented those kids from me and go have
Hey.
a hotel night. Sorry, I know I point out the touristy spots.
passing carriages, they don't know the route they're going to take until they're like leaving. That's what it says online. It said you use it, the driver said to draw a route so that there weren't everybody going on the same route, and they didn't know what route you were going to get. Like some people got really nice routes, and other people got.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Never heard that. Okay.
But I will tell you, I just got the word sing that came up as soon as we came up to this corner. And we've got this music going on. So again, sometimes things are just directional based on what's happening around us. Like I was just talking about the bowling.
Yeah.
It happened to come up on the bowling. But we're actually going to come up here and make a left.
Okay.
It's a very popular area.
Oh, okay.
So, first and foremost, the building over there with the crosses on it, you guys can you see that from here?
Yeah.
That's what we call the powder magazine. So, on record, it's one of our oldest buildings. Well, I take that back. On record, it's the oldest building. I will argue that there is a house that was built 1 year before that called the Pink House that's also haunted. So, when I actually have a season pass in there, so I'm in there quite a bit. We're not going to go in. I was just kind of stepping away so I could take my mask off.
Okay, sorry.
Just kind of need to give myself a minute.
No, go right ahead.
But there are no ghosts. I don't care what anybody tells you. I'm in there probably a dozen or more times per year. I've never had any activity, and I take my gear. It's a great place to see, and it is very big on our history. It's been through 7 different wars, and it contained the gunpowder for those wars. And during all of those wars, you have to remember, they used to move gunpowder to hide it. So this would have been a hiding spot for a short period of time during that war, and then it would go somewhere else. So again, they say that there's pirate ghosts there. There's all kinds of messed up stories that come out of that place. I find the building more interesting than the pirate stories. It is a groin vaulted ceiling. So what does that mean? It has 32-inch thick, there's 8 pillars. They're 32 inches thick each, and they all meet in the middle of the building. So it comes through as a groin in the center with the same size pillar in the center. The roof is filled with sand from 1710. It's still there.
Wow.
So again, yeah, we're talking 300-year-old sand that's still in that building. The reason for that, because the water's it's about 4 blocks. So if a ship were to roll up and shoot a cannon and attack it, the blast would stay contained between the nice thick walls and the sand, keeping the blast out. So that way, the surrounding buildings would not be affected as much. So that's the reason why it was designed the way it was. Now, we're going to walk through the alley over there. It's nice and smooth, so I skipped the real bumpy one. So that alley over there, I'm going to let's move up a little bit just so you can see what's in the doorway. We're also going to let this tour pass through, so I'm going to move up to this side.
Yeah, the hedge.
Yeah.
Where the hedge is.
It's actually a brick wall. We're going to go through that alley after we're done up here, but I like to point it out from back here because we're right next to the cemetery. That's what they used to call Duel's Alley, and I'll explain that story once we get down there. But the loser of a duel, when there was a death, they would pick him up and carry him through there, over this courtyard, and over to the cemetery, drop the body, and then go celebrate the winner.
Oh my god.
Nobody ever talks about that doorway, so I at least like to point it out. But the other stories that come out of here, where you can see where he was going to go. So this is St. Philip's Church. This is the tallest steeple we have. Okay, so we have 2 different sides of St. Philip's Cemetery. Residents of Charleston are buried on the eastern side, and then the western side is everybody else.
Okay.
Calhoun is buried on that side because he was never originally a citizen here. So that's one of the interesting things about this cemetery. St. Philip's. Well, you guys see the gas lamps up there in the distance?
Yeah.
That's the pirate house. So Blackbeard's men would come in off the ship. Blackbeard stayed on the ship. They they would come in, and that's where they would stay. The other interesting thing about that is there used to be a tunnel from the Pirate House, 1 block up, even further, tour guides can't go up there, it's residential, up to Dock Street Theater, which is one of the top 10 haunted locations in America. So there's a couple of ghosts, and those 3 areas actually all tie together.
And that's the residential area?
Yeah, there's residents up there, and like the tour guides are only allowed to go in certain areas.
Okay.
So, but when you guys are walking around tomorrow, you can't miss Dock Street Theater. It's absolutely gorgeous.
We like that.
So, you'll have it on your audio in the morning.
That's great. Yeah.
So there's a young lady that used to work here at the church. Her name was Nettie Dickerson. Nettie was past the marrying age of 17. She was 23. Nobody wanted her. She felt a little depressed. At Dock Street Theater, it was 3 different buildings from what we know of it now. So it was originally a theater called Dock Street, because this used to be called Dock Street. Then we turned it into Planter's Hotel, and it had prostitution. Now, then we turned it back into Dock Street Theater that we know now. So this was during the time that it was the hotel with prostitution. She sees everything that's going on down there, and she decides she's going to go down there and get a job. So she gets down there, she's the best loved girl in the whole place. She's still not happy. She was thinking about coming back. She used to go out to the 2nd story balcony and kind of stare back at the church because you can see it. I tested that theory for myself. Been in the theater, well, you can't see from here. The priest sees her out there all the time. He goes down to try to talk her into coming back. The storm rolls in, lightning strikes the wrought iron banister that she's leaned on, and strikes her dead. Now they say you can see her from the knees up only. Why? Because when we turned it back into a theater, we raised the 1st floor ceiling. She's walking on the floor that she knows. So yeah, her spirit, that's what you can see there. It's her in a red dress from the knees up. She's not really short, you just can't see all of her.
Right.
The other ghost there is that of Junius Booth, father of John Wilkes Booth, who shot Lincoln in theater.
Yep.
He was a traveling actor during the first round of Dock Street Theater, and you can see him there in period dress. Now, when I go in there with my gear, I don't get much, but I also believe that the place is haunted. It has those eerie feelings because Charleston recycles everything, and during one of the big fires that we had, we took some of the wood from a mansion in the Radcliffe Grove neighborhood near where we started, and they brought it up here. That's a tragedy. It brought the tragedy up here. Now, I can't reach the wood because it's like the chair rail about 12 feet on the 2nd story. And it's also the doors leading into the main part of the main floor. So they wouldn't let me hear it. Really? That loud, guys? So, but at any rate, the story that they're telling up there, it's an interesting. There's a sign right where they're all standing at the cemetery that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost. The reason for that was in 1888, a woman named Sue Howard Hardy died 10 days after her stillborn child. In 1989, 101 years later, a local photographer is taking pictures all over town, and he shoots a picture in that cemetery, and he captures a full apparition.
A full what?
An apparition of a woman wearing a shawl with a baby basket next to her near that grave. So he sends it off to Kodak because it wasn't the age of cell phones yet and all Photoshop. Kodak can't debunk the picture. So there's always a ghost hunter or somebody up here trying to find more apparitions. But the reason why I don't show the picture on the tour, as you can imagine, I'm very superstitious. Women that hold the picture start to not feel well, kind of the same stuff I told you about before with the bullet activity at Big John's. But it is said any pregnant woman will not have a good pregnancy. So you want to look it up. Her name is Sue Howard Hardy. You Google it, you can see the picture. It's super cool. But again, I'm not cursing my tours. So at least you'll have it on the audio. Yeah. So are you guys going to have more?
Probably. We'll see. We always
You'll get fed up after 2.
One might be enough for us.
Yeah. Get it right the first time. Let it be.
A lot of work. Yeah, and she's a good baby, so it's gonna be. It's hard to,
We just love traveling so much too. We're like,
You guys travel all the time? Oh, before COVID, I guess?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we
Go
could.
to a couple different countries a year.
Oh, wow.
So
That's crazy.
as much as we can.
What did you guys say you did for a living? I'm just curious.
I don't think we even said anything.
He's a trader, but
I trade commodity futures. It's kind of like trading stocks, I guess. That's usually what I can explain to people is simply what they probably won't understand because they see it in like the mainstream news. You're just speculating on the price of a commodity like pork. So more agricultural products, not so much companies.
Yeah.
Like stocks.
Still, I'm sure at this point in time, you're seeing a lot of different trends the way
Oh, yeah.
they move around.
Yeah, I mean, even before COVID, it definitely, all the different fundamentals around the world definitely made things much more volatile.
I'm events and nonprofit, so I'm not really doing work now because there are no events and nonprofits. Everybody is donating to COVID instead of, understandably so. But I picked it up. I went on spring break in high school to Mexico, and then ever since then, I've gone and traveled as much as I could. A lot of it, like backpacking and stuff like that. But now we're older, we just have to enjoy it a little bit more lavishly. But yeah.
These days, vacations and traveling usually means ghost hunt somewhere. The Taps team, I don't know if you're familiar with that TV show where the two plumber guys back in the day had their own show.
No.
So Ghost Hunters is the one guy who broke away. That's the show he has now. But anyway, they actually have little subsidiary teams all over the country.
Okay.
And one of their members was on one of my tours. Think about it this way. It's not They actually called me yesterday and want me to talk to the board about coming on board with what I did, and bringing my gadgets and my methods. And I'm like, you know what, that's actually really good publicity for me.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I'm learning something new. They use, different devices than I do, something a little bit more higher tech. I try to keep things simple for people that have never done this. That way when I give you the data back, it's not like all these weird meters and charts and stuff that I already know how to read.
Right.
But again, it's an interesting way of life. You guys were not last year. It was crazy on the bus. As you can imagine.
Hey, look at this, sorry, check out the support they built to the street. To keep, the integrity of it. The support, just to hold it up.
Oh, yeah.
Safe shit.
Yeah, they would just chop it off in Chicago. That's pretty cool. Probably also to protect
Well, we actually have the Angels.
Yeah, that's a lot of town, but I had that marked down as something to see if we were driving around and can make it work.
Angel Oak is one of the oldest trees in America.
Yeah.
One of the biggest,
I think, it's the oldest this side of the Mississippi or something like that. Because I'm sure the redwoods are up there, but
Where did you see that at?
it's in James Island.
yeah, it's a little outside of town.
Maybe on our way back.
Back this way to Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're rocking for us. What do you think, dude? You a good deal? Was that a lady with her baby? They're buried in there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's over that bridge.
Oh, it's right over it where we saw it.
That's how the bridge is after
What's your theory on why sometimes they would appear like people or who they appear to or when or do you? Is that like part of it?
I get asked a lot of what my theories are all the time. And I try not to use my voice. It's one of the prettiest spots we have in Charleston. So if you want to take pictures while this is empty, take those pictures.
Yeah.
It's
No, actually,
never empty.
when we were walking first when we passed here, I looked to the left and I'm like, oh, Blair, that's a really pretty alleyway.
Yeah. Well, normally this
So I'm
is
glad we get to walk down here.
every other ghost tour's big finale. Like this is what they would consider their big finale. It's a lot of history down here. A lot has happened here, and it's gorgeous. So, but as far as my theories go, I don't have all the answers, which is, I guess, part of the reason why I still do this. So, why do they appear to some people and not others? I don't believe that's true. I think they appear when they want to appear, and it's just a matter of us being open to being able to see the right things. It's okay, we actually kind of stopped here by the time.
And they're minis.
So this, like I said, it's called Philadelphia Alley now, but again, was called Jewelers Alley back in the day. And before that, it was called Cow Alley, because this is where we kept all the livestock for Charlestown. So the story we all tell is when it was Jewelers Alley, because that's what everybody wants to hear, is a big bad duel story.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. Again, I'm gonna really dummy down their big finale story, because we're really just listening for, clues on the spirit boxes or things that might show up on mine. There was a doctor that moved down here from Rhode Island, and keep those initials in mind because RI pops up quite a bit on our spirit boxes. So he was supposed to get married to his fiancée Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her parents. They're dead, obviously. The attorney that was helping her handle that money sent the doctor away because he thought he was just after Amanda's money. So the doctor moves to Charleston. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. Not a very good start. Somebody passing home. He's wrapping up his night. So anyway, as he was about to get out of the coach from this horseman that set him up to be robbed and killed, somebody walking by saw what was going on. His name was Ralph Isaacs. Initials R.I. So he got there and said, let me take you somewhere else, get you a better place to stay. He takes him to 59 Church Street, which is relatively close to here. It's the same, street that we were just on, and gets him a good place to stay. When the doctor's practice starts to take off, he's making lots of money. He's doing well for himself, which means Amanda's going to be moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. So if you can Google the Whistling Doctor of Charleston, this is the long story you're going to get. Just much more detail.
You scared? You scared?
Bald head and all.
She might be a little hot. We bundled her up a little bit more than usual.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. Just want to make sure she's okay.
You okay? What's up?
She's like, there's a weird voice.
That's okay.
So, we're female. So, at any rate, the two become friends.
No, your bottle out.
The two become friends, and they used to go see plays together, but the doctor was in a different part of society. So he got better seats when they went to see the plays.
The doctor?
Yeah, the doctor. So Ralph was just from here. He's just a regular guy. So he decided they go play Richard III one night. And they can't sit next to each other. They say the doctor gets better seats, so they talk about these plays on the way home. They just say, you're okay. You're perfectly fine. It's been a while since I've actually had to hear some baby screams.
I think sometimes when she's not ready to wake up and the church bells woke her up, then I think it spooked her a little bit. Okay.
I thought they were over. That's kind of why I was voting to go.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. We were just gonna be happy if we made it like halfway through. That's where we're at. Okay. Go right ahead.
Talking about play on the way home. They go see Richard III, and the doctor loves a new actress. Ralph doesn't. They start arguing. Ralph starts insulting his fiancée back home. Obviously, they get very mad at each other and go their separate ways. So Ralph, being from here, calls a newspaper and puts a big ad in the paper about what a disgrace the doctor is to the city of Charleston. He's not from here. He takes our money. He's too expensive. The doctor rebuttals with, let's go to Charleston, let's go to Jewelers Alley and settle this. So they come down here. Now normally, a duel, I told you, when there is a death, the death goes through here. But that didn't always happen. A lot of times, a duel was just an act of bravery. It was I'm willing to take a bullet for what I believe in.
Yeah.
So here's what happened when they came down. The doctor comes down and takes the 20 paces. The doctor points his gun in the air and he shoots. He didn't want to kill Ralph. He just wanted to forgive and forget and move on. Ralph takes a shot below the knee on the doctor. He drops. He didn't die, so he didn't go through the gate. They carry him home. He dies at his home, 59 Church Street, 10 days later. So the moral of the story is that when you're walking through here, they say you can hear the whistles of the doctor, which is why I also record everything. You see how I use different devices in different locations? So this is where you're going to be turning up your audio to see if there's any faint whistles in the background. We get a lot of hecklers. A lot of people will be walking by and It was a fake one. I've caught 2 that I can't debunk. It was pretty melodic and it was very faint. So I've heard a lot of hecklers, so I'm able to determine what's what. They also say you can hear gunshots. I've never heard gunshots. I don't even, half the time I even tell people you can hear gunshots. I listen for the whistles. But it's a very interesting place. Again, take as many pictures as you want. But the bricks, right. So the bricks I also point out that we're walking on, just a little piece of history. The bricks that we're standing on now were renewed in the 1990s. But the bricks down at the very end were actually sun-dried bricks from slave kids who still have their fingerprints and one full handprint at the end. Yeah. So I like to point them out. However, it is outside somebody's home. He actually lives on this alley. It's a nice, big, giant mansion. So I try not to linger, especially when I have a group of 10. I'm like, guys, we gotta keep moving. I told you to get your cameras ready. But the thumbprint on that one from the handprint actually overlaps into the next brick. What makes that so interesting is if you actually think about it, that kid had to put that brick in wet and then slam his hand into it, kind of like a screw you, I don't want to do this anymore. And you'll see how small it is. But I'll point out some of the fingerprints. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. And they're in 3 different places at Charleston. So we're here, Drayton Hall, and I can never remember the 3rd one. Because I think it's really far out there. But there's a lot that goes on in this alley. I get weird anomalies with pictures. So if you see weird bubbles or green lights, or I get a lot of green lights, by all means send them to me if you want. But we're really going to be using the points of audio based on the camera and my voice recorder to see if any whistling comes up. Of course, we'll keep chatting as we go along. But
do you want me to take a picture of you?
Sure.
I know. I saw you take one of me, so.
Yeah, I did with your device. The ghost hunting device.
she gets both hands.
1, 2, 3.
So down here, like I said, I'll get the initials RI. I'll get Amanda, gunshot, kneecap, all of those things wrapped around their duel. And keep in mind, hundreds, if not thousands, of duels have occurred down here. This is just really the only story we can actually prove.
And this is the cemetery here?
That's the courtyard we were just on the other side of.
That's what we looked through.
And then the cemetery is actually next to it, where all those other people were standing. So one of the main reasons why I don't go through cemeteries is because who wants to hang out where they were buried?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of activity that goes on.
Yeah.
However, Charleston, if you think about all of the war and all of the fire and the death that have occurred here, we're walking through a cemetery.
It's true.
So that's why this is called Stories in the Cemetery. A lot of people get angry because I'm not taking them through cemeteries. I'm like, really?
Right?
I'm showing you all this really cool history and all this magic thing.
BLAIR.
It's a weird light flare.
Yeah,
Pictures from there.
Nothing creepy in the photo I took of you. Or out of the ordinary.
How do you spell her name?
R-E-E-S-E.
A friend of mine was a photographer, actually for National Geographic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's an awesome job. But his son's name is Reese. He spells it R-H-Y-S,
So,
the traditional
yeah.
English way.
Ironically, or maybe not, maybe it's becoming more popular than I thought it was. The nurse had a boy who was actually my nurse, and she named him Reese and spelled it that way. And I forget which culture or heritage she said it was, but somewhere in Europe or Ireland or Scotland or something like that.
It might be Ireland, because you're right. That's a great picture too, if you want to learn more about why it was called Philadelphia Alley. In a nutshell, they named it Philadelphia Alley because they named it after a city that helped save us from one of our many, many fires. Not to mention when dueling became illegal and stupid, they had to rename it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you use your flash, it will come up.
What you, Reese? Got anything going on over there?
You know what? If you come back here, you'll have the steeple perfectly lined up, and your flash won't be blocking the words on there.
Let's go backwards. Hey, mommy.
sense now. See it?
Yeah.
But this, I always question this portion of the brick too, because there's an actual, like a hinge up there. So I don't know, like these bricks look pretty close to the bricks on the other side of this, but this must have moved somehow, or they changed something. Like I've looked at this a dozen times over trying to figure it out, but there must have been a reason for that hinge up there. There must have been some kind of gate here, because on the other side of this is the cemetery.
Yeah.
So this is the original wall, for sure. Can you imagine?
What's that?
Can you imagine actual livestock down here?
Oh, jeez.
Like it's the wall that's blocking it in.
No. Crazy that they make their alley this pretty.
These are two houses up here on the right. This is the footlight there as well. So like the costume shop, this is the actor studio for all of the theaters in town. This is where they do the practice. So we have the street here, right up here, we have passage. But these two houses, there's your portrait. Here, so this is sort of the fingerprints. There's one right there.
Sorry, Reese. I want to see the fingerprint. Give her your nose.
Yeah, you can't unsee them. There's some more.
Oh, yeah.
They're all through here. They're all the way up until the end.
You push it. I'm going to be walking around the whole city now looking at that. Go faster.
Well, this is the only place downtown that you can see these.
Oh, okay.
So. Here's one brick, two brick, three.
Oh, wow, yeah.
This right here is that.
And they're so sure that it's fingerprints?
Oh yeah, you can't mistake them once you actually feel them. It's almost like you can feel the fingerprints themselves.
Yeah.
Right about there is your handprint. Can't mistake that either.
Jeez.
Oh, wow. That's like,
Told you, you
yeah, he's
can't
just
mistake
like,
that at all.
what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Really?
We've only got one more building to go. See?
All right. Here's the whole thing.
Sorry, it's a little short-lived, but with only...
It's been interesting.
That's the theater I was talking about. That's the theater.
All right.
Very cool.
These are houses people live in. We're about to enter the art district. At this corner, you'll see a lot of art galleries and yeah, the wife and I will own one of these buildings down here one day.
There you go.
Her majors are in photography and graphic design, so she'll do like the thrill ride photo before everybody's tour.
Yeah.
Develop it beforehand while I got everybody out.
There you go.
My daughter will run the shop. All my
You should live in the building you pointed out, the boxes that you pointed out.
Well, we won't live there.
You'll just...
We won't.
You
We'll just
wanna
run the
live there?
shop.
Okay.
We don't want to live downtown. Like
Oh,
we're
okay.
building a house right now.
Cool.
Pretty far out actually.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. So we're actually going to talk about this building. This is the Wagner building. Okay, so the Wagner building used to be part of our cotton industry. So it was a cotton warehouse in the back, and then it was the opposite for the warehouse were in the front, and it faces waterfront. So what happened here was there was a gentleman named George. He inherited it from his dad, the whole business. So his dad obviously had a pretty successful business, and the kid was silver spoon. He had no idea what he was doing. Got himself into a bunch of debt. I think he inherited pretty fast. We also had the boll weevil in town. It's a bug that eats cotton. So now his crops are bad. So he decides that he is going to get out of the business, and he can't sell the bad crops to the Americans, the town, because he doesn't want to encourage that eating further. So he decides to sell it off. Not a very smart move, but he gets a little bit less money, but he's going to get out. He's watching the ship as it rolls up. You could have seen it in all those buildings. By the sign off the part, you'll notice that tomorrow. Trust me, you'll want to visit that afterwards. They unload all the pots from the horse and buggy back here to the back warehouse. He watches it all. Once the whole thing is loaded, somebody gets too close to the pot with a pipe. The whole ship catches fire. Everybody dies. George watches the whole thing from the second story window. He's already depressed because his dad's gone, and now the legacy of his father's gone with the pot. So what does he do? He piles up all the furniture, captain's chair on top, climbs the mountain of furniture, and swings a noose and hangs himself. The newspaper says they found him the next morning. So the kid ran back to the press room to go tell him what was going on, and ever since then they say you can see a shadow of a swimming corpse from the window where he hung himself. Now our camera doesn't see through glass.
Okay.
So what we're looking for there is you're going to give me a quick sweep of the second story windows, and we're looking for windows that are going to go darker blue or black. So even if you don't see it, I'm still going to watch it in the morning to see like if we actually captured anything. Usually my people with the digital camera, I have them get me pictures, I keep lightening them up to see the shadows, things like that. I get another ghost that comes along because it was the same time period. Where we came out of the alley up there, 2 blocks up is a restaurant called Coogan's Porch. It's a great place for breakfast and lunch, by the way. But the ghost from there is Zoe. It used to be her house. She lived there. She was a school teacher here in town, and she lived there with her sister Elizabeth. Zoe, they say you can see her in the ladies' restroom mirror when you go there. And Zoe likes to tag along, and I know it's her because her name is spelled Z-O-E, not Z-O-E-Y. This usually sticks to pretty common names and terms. So when an odd spelling comes up once, twice, 3 times a month, only when I'm here, it makes complete sense. But I also get the name Elizabeth. Zoe died by falling down the stairs. Elizabeth was the sister. The other night, just for an example, I said, hey Zoe, what does your house look like now? It's a common question. And usually I get things like food, eat, fork, very simple terms. You know, nothing wrapped around restaurant or what the restaurant's named after. Instead, I got the color yellow through the reverse spirit box, and then the color white showed up on this one. The house is yellow with white columns. So it's kind of like okay, I'll take it. It is what it is. So I never know who I'm going to get here. It's usually a hit or miss type spot. And I know we didn't use the reverse spirit box, so you won't have that on the audio. Again, I was trying to be as quiet as I could.
No, I appreciate that.
Again, I've been there. But this is an interesting place for sure. And it used to be a brewery, so it was also a tap room and brewery. They made beer and it was a restaurant.
Okay.
They left town too because it was too haunted.
Wow.
The taps would turn on by themselves, too many cold spots coming through, all kinds of things. We're turning this into a wedding reception area in the front. Oh. So good luck to those newlyweds. They'll probably be cursed.
Oh no.
Remember.
Oh no.
So we're going to kind of walk along until we get to the front, and then we'll get a quick view of the second story windows, see what we captured. And without listening to the spirit box tonight, I have no idea how we did. So hopefully we got a bunch of stuff. On the front. You're good.
What am I stuck at? Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
No, that's okay.
He's got his tool, he's got to
Last night was blue moon, full moon,
I heard.
Halloween.
Somebody was saying it was like the first.
Here, or it was
No,
still the same color?
Now the blue moon actually is just a term, so it's not technically blue. It just means that it's the second full moon of the month.
Okay.
See, that's why I read it, and then they said, but it won't appear blue in Chicago. So that made me wonder, like, well, does it appear blue?
No.
It
might take off like a small hint.
Yeah.
Just based on the way it turns, but it's not going to be a blue. Like a red moon, it's a red moon.
Yeah.
Blood moon is definitely red.
Do you find you get more? More activity at full moon?
I get more activity from new moon. It's the one right there around that circular, like right there above the address. So, again, good luck with those wedding receptions.
Yeah.
Don't know how that's gonna actually turn out for them.
Whoops. There's signature itself.
Oh, I got the word educate. So he was a teacher. Actually, we're wrapped up anyway, so yeah. I mean, he grabbed some film for me, so I don't want to keep him from doing his dad duty.